everyone. Good evening. We're going to get started here. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Jenna Perino. For those of you who I haven't met, and I am one of the assistant directors in the Office of Alumni Relations. We're very excited to bring you tonight's career seminar, the 6 Keys to Succeeding in Your New or Current Job. In addition to our career seminars, we're pleased to bring you opportunities like tonight's seminar, as well as networking programs, social gatherings, community service opportunities, reunions, a couple events coming up in the next few months for you to look out for. Next Saturday, we have our Summer Fun Day, Montclair State at the Jersey Shore, so we'll be having a big alumni gathering down in Belmar at Bar A if you're interested. And then we'll have our next career seminar on August 8th. We'll be starting a whole new round of career seminars, so stay tuned for more information about that. But on August 8th, we'll have a job search boot camp, so Rob will be back to that program. That's going to be a half-day workshop from 9 a.m. till 1 in the afternoon, and we'll go over different topics related to the job search. I also want to mention Montclair Connect. I know many of you are already on there, but for those of you who don't know what it is our online community that is exclusive for alumni. And on there you have tons of features. There's an alumni directory, so you can search for folks you graduated with, or you're looking for people who work in a particular field or in a particular industry. You can post your resume and also search for resumes. There's an area called the Career Advisory Network, where you can either offer to be a career mentor, or you can search for career mentors who work in a particular industry, as well as you can sign up for a Montclair State email forwarding address. You can view photo galleries, so after tonight's event, you can go on and look at pictures from the event, and things like that. So tons of great stuff on there. I want to mention to you that you have a couple things on your chair. One of those is a handout from the Center for Career Services. And that'll give you just some information on the services that you have available to you as alumni. So, for instance, alumni have lifetime access to meet with career counselors one-on-one, so you can make an appointment and go meet a career counselor and do a resume review or self-assessment and all types of great things. You also have access to lots of online tools such as Career Directions, which is a website where you can search for jobs as well as post jobs, and Optimal Resume, which is a tool where you can build your cover letter and resume, and tons of other great stuff. You also have a yellow sheet on your chairs, which is kind of an evaluation form for us. So if you can take the time to fill that out at the end of the evening, your feedback is very important to us, so if you can just let us know what you thought, that would be great. And now I'll introduce to you tonight's instructor, Rob Hellman. He's a certified 5 O'Clock Club career coach, and he's vice president at the club, also a professor at NYU, and author of the book, Your Social Media Job Search, which we'll be giving away to you copies later tonight. So the 5 O'Clock Club is a national outplacement and career counseling network with certified career counselors across the U.S. He's helped hundreds of clients in diverse industries and professions to find and reach their job search and on-the-job goals. So I'll bring Rob up now, and I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit more about himself, and I'm delighted to have him. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so we're talking about success on the job, and then the first 90 days, which is crucial to forming a long-term favorable impression in your new job. So we're talking about both of those things, long-term success and short-term success as well. So yeah, just a little bit more. Jen gave me a great introduction. I appreciate that. I just want to give a little bit more about where I'm coming from, so you essentially know like why you listen to me. Yeah. So I am, as a 5 O'Clock Club career coach, I'm trained in a very powerful career job search methodology. So part of what I'm going to share you is informed by that methodology. I also have 20 years of experience in the corporate world with places like American Express and Chase and Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So what that means is basically I was kind of where you are. I was looking for jobs. I was interviewing people. I was getting interviewed. I was writing resumes. I was trying to succeed in the job I had. So that experience informs everything I share with clients in my private practice every day, and it informs what I'm going to share with you. And actually, that leads to another point, that I do get to work with clients every day in my private practice on the job issues as well as the job search. So I get to see what's working, what's not working, So that's kind of where all this is coming from. Last thing I just want to mention before we get into the actual detail is I have a sign-up sheet. If you're interested in getting the presentation, I'll email it to you. I'll send you the slides. If you give me your email address, you'll also be on my list for roughly once a month. Career tips. It's probably even less than that actually when I get around to it. I get busy, but I've heard that they're pretty valuable and helpful. If you're interested, you want to get to the presentation and get on that list. You can just fill out one of those yellow or blue sheets at the end. Okay, so let's actually get into the material. And by the way, let's make it as much of a conversation as time allows. Please feel free to ask questions, interrupt, hopefully politely. And I want to make sure you're kind of get what I'm saying, and that you agree, and that it's making sense to you. So, okay. Any questions so far? Hoping not. All right. So, okay, let me ask you all. I'm going to start with a question for you. True or false? Which of these statements are true? Which of these are false? Working hard and doing your job well is the key to job security. And the second statement, the average American has been in his or her job for 14 years. Which of these are true? Which of these are false? Anybody?
False.
Yes.
I think the number 1 is false.
Number 1?
Number 2, true.
Okay, false and a true. You had an idea?
Go the other way around.
Okay, you think the number 1 is true, number 2 is false. Okay, any other thoughts? Yeah.
False and false.
False and false? Anyone else?
False.
False and false? So a lot of falses and falses.
I would say that's old school mentality.
Old school mentality. Okay. So I guess you're saying false and false. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So the drum rolls. Anybody have a drum? No? There's... Well, the answer is they're both false. Okay? Now, working hard and doing your job well, I think is true. I mean, at one point, maybe many years ago, that might have been true. These days, you got to go beyond just doing your job well. We're going to talk about the things you have to do. I mean, things like managing relationships, demonstrating leadership. We're going to get into that all in a second. You have to go beyond to have long-term career security, not just job security. Okay? And actually, according to the Department of Labor, the average American has been at his or her job for 4 years. So there's a lot of turnover out there. So there are things you need to do more than maybe your parents or their parents had to do way back when to have job and career security. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So what are those things? Let's just do a quick overview. 6 keys to career security. And I call it career security, right? Because we're thinking long term. If something happens, we all know that layoffs are a way of life these days, right? So if something changes, there's a restructuring, the economy goes south, you want to be ready to make that move. In fact, you want to be ready before it's too late, before you have to scramble, to be one step ahead of the game, right? And have a vision in place and all these things so you can make that move quickly and always be ahead of the curve. So that's what I mean by career security. Think big picture here, not just your individual job, but the long term. So what are the 6 keys? The first, the old goal was job security. The new goal is marketability. We're going to get into each of these in detail. Okay. The second, manage up, down, and across. Relationships are key. The third, develop a longer-term vision and a detailed plan. So you want to make sure that what you're doing makes sense for you in your life, and so you're happy, and you'll do better in your job. And you have more career security if you're happy and you're doing what you want to do. Okay? Know when it's time to move on. That's very important. Don't get complacent, which is very easy to do, especially if you've been at a company for a long time. Build and maintain a network. Relationships are half of the equation here. Again, build and maintain a network. If you have to leave, if you have to move around, you have people who care about you. Demonstrate leadership. Taking the extra step. I'll talk to you what it means really to demonstrate leadership. And you can really demonstrate leadership at any level, even the most junior levels in an organization. You can demonstrate leadership, and that's going to totally make you stand out in a good way in your firm, in the company that you're in. So, okay, we already talked about this. Let's look about the first key. The first key, the old goal was job security. The new goal is marketability. I have this little paragraph here. Career success in a changing economy means continuously becoming aware of market conditions inside as well as outside your present organization and learning more about what you have to offer both inside and outside your organization. Basically, what you need to do is you need to think and act like a consultant. You need to be like an investigator for your employer. A consultant is always looking to add new value. You want to always be thinking, what can I add? What's changing out in the market? Are my skills becoming obsolete? Can I bring in new things? Okay, I have a client who was a star at his company. He was in aerospace for a couple of decades in this one company. He did really, really well. He was in information technology. He kind of rose to mid-level management. And now he's in trouble. He was way too complacent. He didn't. All the things that he used to do for them are completely obsolete. They're it's technology especially, right? Things change. His little niche he can see just ahead that he's going to be out of a job, and he doesn't have those skills. He hasn't done what I'm telling you to do, right? Pay attention to how you can be marketable, how you can remain relevant to your company and to others' companies. So I just don't want that to happen to you. Okay? So what can you do to bring new things? This is work, right? I know it's a lot of work, but we're thinking long term here, and you're going to have the security when you do things like this. You'll have the security, and you'll have satisfaction, because part of this is helping you to take control and do what you want to do. We're going to get more into that too. This is all the underlying theme here is taking control of your career. Not just waiting for stuff to happen to you like this client, right? And then reacting, but you taking control and you going out and doing what you want to do, which takes more work, but you get more satisfaction. You get a huge return on your investment for trying to take control. So anyway, do things like, and absolutely, I would join professional associations or industry associations. It's one of the most valuable things you can do in a job search or even on the job. That's where you meet people, you learn what's going on, what the latest things are happening in your industry or your profession. LinkedIn groups. Does anybody not know what LinkedIn groups are? People familiar with that? If you're not, you all should be on LinkedIn. Okay, I give a whole seminar on LinkedIn. I'm not going to repeat it in this. I can talk for 2 hours or a whole day on LinkedIn. Okay, how valuable it is. You should all be on LinkedIn. Just join the free part of LinkedIn. Get involved in LinkedIn groups. They're like associations, only they're on LinkedIn. In fact, a lot of your associations, the real world associations, have LinkedIn group counterparts, like the Montclair Association, Alumni Association. They have a LinkedIn group. Okay, so you should get involved with that. Did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to mention that supposedly Facebook is trying to set up a platform that is
All I want to say about that, thank you for bringing that up. So the question is, or the comment is, Facebook has a platform, or they're setting up a platform where they want to compete. I would not think of Facebook, and everything else is way down the list in terms of career success. You only have so much time. You got to prioritize your time. Anything you do that's social can potentially get you interviews or help you with your career. But where you get the most bang for the buck, there's nothing that compares to LinkedIn in terms of social media and things you can do. Just start with LinkedIn. Facebook, sure, there's always that potential, right? There's a lot of people on it, but it's too social. The culture is different. It's going to take them a long time. LinkedIn's got that corner, the career management niche. They've got that market corner, okay? So anyway, read trade journals, online journals. It's easy that way, okay? One of the things you can do, if I have time I'll even show you, I'll get online, is you can keep track of lots of different, this is what I do. I'm in career services, career management, right? So I have lots of things I want to read to keep up with what different ideas and share that stuff with you. So what I do is I subscribe to lots of different blogs. I have a blog, you can subscribe to mine, for example. Lots of different blogs, lots of different online publications that have feeds. They call them RSS feeds. I don't want to make your mind explode here if you don't know what I'm talking about, but basically, there's something called Google Reader, okay? You go to reader.google.com, get an account, okay? And then start subscribing to these feeds and these articles and these blogs in your field. What happens is, what it does is it aggregates everything that you're interested in one place. So you can easily just scan. You can scan the headlines and you can read the stuff right there. You don't have to jump around to 50 different websites.
Can you give that website again?
Sure. Reader.google.com. Reader.google.com. It's Google Reader. Right? If you typed in Google Reader in Google, you'll find it that way too. Okay. Anyway, if we have time, I'll try and get online and show you. I'm not sure we're going to have that, but anyway, or you can look into it on your own. Okay? But I found it really valuable. There's a very small learning curve you have to get past, and then you're good. Okay? So, anyway, does anybody use it here? What do you all think of it?
Google Reader?
Yeah.
I use it constantly. I get all of my news and all of my technical stuff.
It's all in one place. It's easy to skim through things and find what you're interested in, what's relevant. You can flag things. It's great. Okay? And I think you also use it. So, okay. All right. Take courses. If your company's paid for courses. Keep yourself relevant. Keep your skills marketable. Network with people outside your organization. A lot of ideas that you can bring back come from other industries sometimes. Some of the best ideas come from different industries than the one you're in, because they're just used to doing things a different way. You can take from that and be a leader. Bring in new things. Keep yourself marketable. Any questions on this? This is one of the 6 keys. It's really important. They're all important. This is a very important key to success. Any questions, comments? Okay. Second key, manage up, down, and across. Okay? Most people lose their jobs because of poor relationships, not incompetence. I would say that half of your success in a given job is how well you do your job. The other half is relationships. You've got to have people have to like you. You've got to know people so you can move around if you need to within an organization. So relationships are really, really important. It's just, look, we're human beings. That's part of success, is to have good relationships with people. Okay? So it's really, really important that you are aware of how good your relationships are, especially with the people who can influence your career success. And beyond career success, you're getting laid off, right? So things like you want to think about your boss, your peers, your subordinates. All the stakeholders, and I use those terms loosely in terms of peers and subordinates and bosses. I'll tell you what I mean about that in a second. So let me ask you, somebody tell me, what is your job? What is your job? For any job that you have, there really is one job that you all share. One job that you all share is the most important thing. Can anybody share that with me, or does anybody have any ideas? What's your primary job in any job that you have? Yes?
Adding value to the company.
Adding value to the company? Okay, anybody else have any thoughts? Yes?
Make your boss look good.
That's it. To please your boss. If you're not pleasing your boss, let me tell you, you're not going to be there long. Okay? Either you or your boss is not going to be there long. And probably you. So, I just tell you about a client who, he was in IT. He was like he actually was kind of a liaison between IT and the end users internally for these services for his internal clients. Okay, between information technology and the business end users. And his internal clients loved him. He was always proactive. He always followed up. He solved their problems. He was personable. He was smart. His internal clients loved him. He got tons of emails saying, "Thank you, you're wonderful, you're great, I appreciate the help you've given me." So he was shocked when he got his performance review, and he was this close to being fired. Because he was like, "What? My clients love me. How could you say this?" His boss gave him his performance review. He said, "You're doing a bad job. You're not, and you've got a problem." The problem was he was undercutting his boss left and right. They go into meetings together. He would constantly undermine his boss in the meetings, disagree in inappropriate ways. No. Not to tell his boss about important things, surprise him, totally keeping his boss out of the loop. He actually thought, what happened was, basically to his boss's credit, he said, "Look, I know your internal clients like you. I'm going to give you one more chance. In fact, I'm going to give you a coach, a career coach," which was me. "And we're going to get some help, see if you can get some better at this. You got to learn how to manage your relationships better. Okay, it's not just your clients." So that's to his boss' credit. And my client told me, he said, I think I'm better than my boss. I think my boss I think I'm better than my boss." That was his attitude. All right. So I basically had to disabuse him of that, emotion and that kind of attitude.
Was he a millennial?
What?
Was he a millennial?
Yeah. So I don't, no, he wasn't actually. But anyway, so what we talked about this, and we said, look, you've got to become a team player. You've got to really be keeping that, that primary job responsibility in mind, which is to make your boss look good, to please your boss, to support your boss, to help your boss do their job. That's why you work hard. That's why your boss hired you. So anyway, totally within 6 months, he totally changed in terms of his performance, in terms of his perception. It was a great success story, but he almost lost it because he forgot that rule that his job is to please his boss. So it's very important. So when we talk about that, you want to appreciate your boss's situational leadership pressures. What do I mean by that? I mean, think about when your boss asks you for something, says, I need it now, or says, do it this way, and you're thinking, gee, why don't you just give me some freedom to do it the way I want, right? Well, they have pressures too. It's not always so obvious to you what's going on behind the scenes. So, and when I say situational leadership, this is something for people who manage other people. You can Google situational leadership and you can get pages of results. It's a whole field of study. It's a management style. When I talk about situational leadership, I'm talking about that people need to manage to the situation. So you want to delegate wherever possible if you're a manager, to give people the freedom to use their own talents, their unique talents, not necessarily your talents, to get the job done in the best way possible. But there's often not opportunities to delegate because there are time constraints. Maybe you're not motivated. Maybe you don't have the skills. Right? That means your boss is going to have to act differently and maybe more directive in how they approach you. So appreciate your boss's situational leadership pressures. Also, very important, you want to make sure you're set up for success with your boss. You have to manage expectations. That means you have to meet with your boss. Some bosses, like, you may never see them. Some are very hands-on. It's the opposite. You've got to get with them at least once a week. Even if it's half an hour, ideally an hour, come prepared. Come prepared with, here's what I'm working on. Here are the things that are complete. Here are the things that are still open. Here's what I need your help on. Just come with a checklist so you can make it a really efficient meeting. Make sure that you are working on the things they need you to be working on, that your work is prioritized appropriately. You really got to manage expectations. It's very important. A lot of people go astray. I can tell you many stories about things going wrong because my client thought everything was great, but my boss wasn't. They just didn't have good communication. They didn't have good communication, and maybe it was the boss's fault. Who knows? But the point is the communication wasn't there, and they were just at divergent goals, and there was a problem. Okay. So you really want to pay attention to that. Your peers. When I talk about your peers, you want to look at. You want to make sure you're getting along with your peers, and you want to manage those relationships. And when I talk about peers, I'm talking about your colleagues, the stakeholders in your success that you don't necessarily report to, or that aren't below you. It could even be consultants that you've hired, or vendors, or they could be considered peers in some cases. People in different departments, which actually raises another point. When I talk about your boss, I'm not just talking about your immediate boss. Think about it in terms of anybody who's above you, who has say about how if you're going to get promoted, if you're going to stay in the company, who can influence that decision, right? People that are above you. So think broadly about your boss. Think about it like your bosses. Okay, dotted line reports. Okay. So your peers, think broadly as well. Your subordinates, the same thing. Your subordinates are not just maybe people who report to you, but it could be maybe an administrative assistant who doesn't directly report to you, but you count on them. You just want to manage your relationships. Okay? You want to be aware of your relationships. And again, you want to think about situational leadership when you're managing staff. Okay? Let me give you a couple of thoughts about how you can manage relationships. Okay? So I told you now that these are the people you have to think about when you're managing relationships. Now, how do you manage them? Let me give you a couple of thoughts. One thing for managing bosses, okay? This is a really cool little thing that you can do. It's called the 8-word message, okay? And you want to use it to make sure that the people most senior than you know what you want them to know about you. So, first, you got to think about who your bosses are, and you want to have a targeted message for each of your bosses. And I'm going to give you examples. So these are real examples that clients use, okay? So first, think about your bosses, your immediate manager, your boss's boss, Stakeholders are internal clients more senior to you that you need to please. External, maybe a head of an industry association or a guru in the field. People that are in a position to make decisions about your career, right? So what kind of messages? Let's take a couple of examples. So I'm going to start with the second one first. So what we did with the clients, we did this whole major workflow re-engineering project. It was very important. We came up with an 8-word message. I don't even know if it's 8 words. It's pretty close. Now that I have completed the re-engineering project, okay? Actually, it is 8 words. You know, it's a ballpark, right? Well, now that I've completed the re-engineering project, what does that mean? So she ran into her boss's boss in the elevator. She hardly ever sees her boss's boss. And she said, and the boss's boss said, hey, how's it going? It's been a while, you know, and she could have said, oh, fine, how are things with you, right? Just like that, which is probably what normally you would do. Instead she said, well, things are good now that I've completed the re-engineering project. And he said, oh, really? I didn't know you were involved in that. She said, yes, actually, I was leading that whole initiative. And we actually just got it done ahead of schedule and very excited about it. And they had a whole conversation about this major initiative that she had just led. He would have never known about that. It wouldn't have been on his radar if she hadn't taken that opportunity to let him know. Okay? So you really want to have a little message ready for people when they walk by your desk or more senior to you can just tell them what's going on. This other thing, yes, I used to do CFO, was another example of a client who was a chief financial officer at a company. He then took a job that was at a lower level as a controller at another company, but he had all these other other things he knew how to do from his CFO experience. So when he was in meetings and when something came up, he wouldn't do it like, hey, I used to be the CFO, like arrogantly like that, but he would just remind people that he has this other experience, kind of in a more humble way. He said, yeah, when I was the CFO, we'd say it like this way, when I was the CFO, this other thing, this is one of the things that we were able to do, you might want to think about that. So he always had that message ready, okay? So this is a cool little thing. And here's another thing you can do. The quarterly exercise. This is where you want to make a list of all the stakeholders in your success. First, you want to make a list. Get a piece of paper and write down your 6 to 8 bosses, your 12 to 14 peers, and your subordinates. And you want to think about, what do they think of me? What should they think of me? What's my relationship with each? What should it be? Do I treat them well? Or do they complain about me to their bosses? Right? The subordinates, right? You want to think about if there are any gaps. You want to think about, well, how do I want them to think about me, and what do they think about me? And that's what you want to do. Think about those two things. How do I want them to think about me, and what do they think about me? Is there a gap? If there's a gap, what can you do about that gap? Sometimes it can be as easy as just saying hello. Maybe, you forget you just don't naturally say hello to people. Sometimes that doesn't mean anything, but people read into it. Or just say, listen, we hardly get to connect. Why don't we grab a cup of coffee? It could be something as simple as that. It can change the whole nature of a relationship. Okay? But the point I'm making here is do the hard work and it's not even that hard, but do the work of, the hard work really is that it's mentally hard. You've got to face the relationships. You've got to face the situation. Sometimes you don't want to. You're like, oh, I don't want to deal with it, that we're not getting along, whatever. Well, confront it head on. Don't run away from it and see if there's anything you can do about it. Yes?
How do you find out what people really think about you? I mean, they'll say, I don't think there's a lot of situations where somebody's going to tell you to your face. In some cases, yes, but in many, they won't. And if you've disappointed them or not done something, they
Right.
won't let you know. How do you find out?
Right. So the question is, how do you find out what people really think about you? That's something that's really beyond the scope of this, and I want to say that you don't need to do that for this exercise. Okay? There are ways. I'm a big believer in like these 360 reviews. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but where you get that kind of feedback, you find out lots of things that you didn't know. You thought everything was wonderful, but this is something you can do without having to ask anybody. You could just do it on your own. What I would ask you to do is think about your relationships at work and think, what do you think is going on? And if you'll know that probably in some cases maybe it's not ideal. Maybe you've been butting heads on a couple of things. Maybe you feel a little uncomfortable about it. That's something you can do proactively without having to do any other additional research to address that. Okay? You had a question?
Just a comment. It's hard to build relationships when you're working all the time. So And then when you reach out to people, they may feel that you're only in touch with them when you need something. So can you comment on
Sure.
how you build a bridge, but with the time constraints when you're constantly working, it's hard to have time actually to build the types of relationships you're referring to.
Right. So the question or comment is, it's hard to find the time to build these kinds of relationships. And then there's the other side of it is that sometimes you feel that because you're working so hard, people feel like, oh, you only care about me when you need something. So those are almost two different things. But what I would do is, that's why it's a quarterly exercise. Once a quarter, assess what's going on. Hopefully, 80% of your relationships are pretty good, right? Maybe 20%, or if you got 10 people on this list, maybe one or two of them there's a problem you want to address, or maybe that's not hard. Just call them up and I don't know. It depends on the situation or what the issue is. Say, hey, I'd like to talk to you more about that project if that's the issue. I want to get your thoughts on it. Or let's grab a coffee or go to lunch or just say hello. Or it depends on the situation. But just do it once a quarter. Okay? That's what I'm saying. So you're right. If you're busy, you can't constantly be thinking about this. But what I'm asking you to do is consciously think about it once a quarter, and for the problems you uncover, do something about it. Is that something you think you could do? Okay. All right. So any other questions on this before we go on to the next exercise? This is about relationships. Any other questions about managing relationships? And how important it is and what you can do? Okay. All right. So the third key, develop a vision for your career and a detailed and then a plan. Okay? So you want to develop your career plan. Think about it like if you were planning someone else's business. The business is you, right? It's your happiness and success. That's the customer is you, right? And you basically want to think about the big picture. This is all about it's two things. First, it's success in the sense that you'll be one step ahead of the curve and you'll be less likely to be laid off because you'll be doing what you want to do and what you're good at. But it's also just happiness, right? Career happiness and then life happiness. You want to have a vision and then a plan. You want to think big picture. You don't want to just be, and some people have heard me talk before, have heard me say this, you don't want to be just out there, just drifting with the currents in the middle of the ocean, hoping that you'll be taken to a nice island. You want to swim to that island. You have to swim to it. But you have to find the island and then swim to it. So that's what this is about. Being active with your career and your life. Okay. Now, I've talked about these exercises in other seminars I've done here at Montclair University. I'll just mention a couple of them quickly. The 15 and 40-year vision. And there are lots of, you can talk to the Career Center to do some of this stuff here at Montclair University. You can ask them for exercises similar to this. Okay? I have a webinar on my website that you can take if you're interested in, if you want to learn how to do these particular ones, but you can also go to Montclair and get that from them as well. But the point is, you want to think long term. You want to have a vision for your life. You want to understand what you enjoy doing that you're good at. That's the 7 stories exercise. And you want to think about your work-related values, the things you can compromise on and you can't compromise on. So now when you put all these things together, you're starting to form a plan about what you need in a given job. And if your current job isn't satisfying this, if it's not fitting in with a long-term vision for your life, or maybe it's something that you're good at but you're not enjoying, or maybe it's something that you're enjoying but you're not good at, or it doesn't match with your work-related values, sooner or later, that's going to catch up with you. You're going to be out of a job at some point. You're not going to be giving it your all. There's going to be some measure of frustration in there. Okay? So it's really, and beyond that, there's something unhappy about that situation, right? You have to compromise so profoundly in one of these areas. So you want to do exercises that get at these things, and you want to plan a long-term vision and then go out and reach that. Again, I talk about this stuff I did an hour-and-a-half seminar on this a bunch of weeks ago here at Montclair, so I can't get into too much detail, but you should do some thinking about this, okay? And if what you're doing now is not matching up with A, your vision for your life, B, what you enjoy doing that you're good at, and C, your work-related values, you should start now, before it's too late, thinking about what your next move should be. And planning for it, even if it happens 2 years down the road. Do you get the concept here? I'll give you the name of a book, just in case. So I have my webinar on my website. I'll give it to you later at hellmanconsulting.com. You can learn how to do these exercises from the webinar. You can also get a book out. It's called Targeting a Great Career by Kate Wendleton. It has these exercises in it. Okay? Targeting a Great Career by Kate Wendleton. And my website is hellmanconsulting.com. HELLMANN consulting.com. 2 L's and 2 N's. Okay. And you go to the seminars page, you see this. All right. Anyway, let's talk about any questions on this before we go any further, before we get to the 4th page. Okay, makes sense to people? Okay, great. All right.
Would you say the targeting a great career would be beneficial for someone just starting out as well? Can't quite decide where they want to be, and
Yes, the question is it beneficial for somebody just starting out? I would say absolutely yes. I wish I had done the exercises I'm talking to you about when I was in my early 20s. I wish I had done. I wasted a lot of time in terms of like less than stellar satisfaction with my career before I finally figured it out. Okay? So yes, I think these things, the earlier the better. Okay. The 4th key, know when it's time to move on, okay? So you want to think about these things, because here's what happens. Especially if you've been in a job for a while, and I see this all the time with clients. Some of these clients, especially, they've been working for a while, and so some of them are in their 50s, and at that point they're starting to get, they're paid a lot, and the company starts to think they can get somebody younger, or there's a restructuring, things change. Sooner or later, things are going to change that company. The company that was great 5 years ago may not be so great now. Maybe there are problems, right? There are reorganizations, new people come in, they don't know you. What happens is, you can't help but feel loyal to the company. You've done a great job. You've been rewarded for that great job. Maybe you've gotten awards. Maybe you've been, feted. They loved you all these years you've been working there, so you have this sense of loyalty. It's human nature, but the company doesn't have a sense of loyalty to you. Individual people might, but they move around. Things change, right? Ultimately, the company doesn't have that sense of loyalty to you. It's a hard fact, but you got to come to terms with it. You just got to accept it and be smart about it. Okay? So what that means is you got to be thinking all the time, am I still set up for success? Okay? Very important. Are things happening? Don't delude yourself because you were set up for success for 5 years. Now it's the 6th year. All of a sudden you're not. Well, you got to be aware of it. Okay? Are you able to learn and develop? Important because you want to be able to keep your skills marketable, right? Or sooner or later there's going to be a problem. What's being said about and reported about your industry, about your department? Is this position still compatible with your long-term vision, your plan, right? That we just talked about, the 3rd key. Let me give you an example. So I had a client who came to me after things went, kind of took a left turn. And what happened was he was a star in this company. He was there for like 10 years. He won all these awards. People loved him. And things, he was a star. And he had loyalty to them and all that. What happened was new people came in. Things changed. The new top management came in at a senior level. This is a financial institution. It's a bank. And they basically, this new man, so this guy was head of a database marketing team. It's a marketing analytics team. This new top manager brought in somebody that he used to work with to run a similar marketing analytics team. Right? So there are 2 departments doing roughly the same thing now. Okay. So he figured, he was always been worked well with people. He was great with relationships. He was great at his job. He just figured, he'd try to reach out. Maybe they could partner in some things. He reached out to his new boss. He figured everything would be fine. It took about a year, and then he was out of a job. I mean, the writing was on the wall when this new department was there, right? That he should be starting to kind of look around and just be ready to make a move. Okay. He was shocked. He was shocked because he had been a star for so long. So don't let that happen to you, right? The signs were there. He was no longer set up for success. There was another department doing what he did too, right? That was a big thing for him. And also what's being said and reported about your industry and department. For him, it was like internally, like, whoa, there's another department here. That's the kind of people are talking. That's not cool. I got to face up to it. Okay, any questions on the fourth key? Knowing when, yes.
I have a question. Because this is like right where I'm at. I work for a privately owned family business that I've been at for 12 and a half years. Very close with my boss. Even came to my wedding. Family members I've worked there over the years, but there's no movement, no ability to learn and develop. I work under the controller, and my aunt does bookkeeping, right? So now we just filed Chapter 11. So I'm stuck with, I've known this family, I've been working with them since my early 20s, but obviously there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
Do I say that I'm moving on or keep it quiet?
Well, here's what I would do. And that's a touchy situation, but so the question is for everybody is, here's a situation, you were there forever, you know them very well. They're like family, right? They're like family to you, but the company's doing terribly. So it's a little bit tricky because you have these people, because they're like family to you. They're still running the company. I think that we'd have to have a longer conversation to see if you should talk to them about it and say what's going on here. But let me put it this way. I would do it they wouldn't replace you, right? They wouldn't replace you. They just might let you go because they can't afford you anymore, right? They wouldn't replace you with someone else if you said, hey, listen, I'm nervous about this. Should I move on, right?
Well, I've seen them let people go who had mentioned that.
So you think that's a possibility. I just want to understand the relationship. So you got to be honest about. So in that case, I would try to feel it out, but say it in a positive way. Just don't say like, hey, I'm really scared. I'm thinking I should look, because then they're going to think, and you're saying that there's a danger they might bring somebody else in who's, or replace you, right? That in some companies that could happen. I would just say, what's going on? I'm generally concerned. Do you think we're going to be here in 2 years? Do you think we're going to be here in 2 years? You can say it that way. And I would be looking, absolutely. I'd be looking around at the same time as you're doing that, depending I would get my network together. I'd be having informational meetings. Yeah, no one says you have to be there forever, right? You're not. You can leave. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think it's smart that you're saying this, and I'd be looking around. I'd be talking to them, but at the same time, getting my network together and thinking about my long-term vision, right? So you can figure out whatever next move you make fits in with your vision, and then start to have informational meetings and start to maybe tap into that hidden job market and see and find a good opportunity. You probably have some time, so you can do it the right way and get what you want. Somebody else had a question? Yes?
When you say I'm set up for success, what do you mean when the opportunity comes that you're ready to take it?
Great question. So the question is, what do I mean by set up for success? What I mean by set up for success is that are there things, not that the opportunity comes, are you ready to take it? It's not that. It's about that you have the tools you need to be successful in your company. That you still have the tools you need. The tools could be people, too. It could be access to people. It could be access to development opportunities. It could be access to your new boss. Whatever boss, it could be having your staff that reports to you. If you need that to be successful, you need to have the tools in place so you can be successful. However you define tools. If something's missing now that was there before, now you may not be set up for success. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions on this? Yes?
How do you brand yourself?
I'm sorry?
How do you brand yourself?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
How do you brand yourself?
How do you brand yourself?
Yes.
How do you brand yourself?
Yes.
Well, if you're talking about internally, that's where the messages come in, right? The 8-word message. You want to brand. You want to remind people what you can do, and what right? I mean, branding is a whole other conversation. But in terms of selling yourself, are you talking about outside the company or inside the company or both? Yeah, you've got to just quickly, because that's not what this is about. You've got to think about what you add, what's your unique value. And sometimes that changes over time. So you may have to rebrand yourself, right? Maybe your skills are obsolete. You've got to better get marketable skills again. And rebrand yourself as the person who can do this new thing. So your branding, the point is your branding may change over time. branding, and the way I interpret branding is what do you uniquely offer that differentiates you from other people? Okay? Why should people pay attention to you versus other people? Okay? So that's what I mean by branding, and that can change. So how you brand yourself depends on, it all goes back to marketability. What makes you marketable? That's how you brand yourself. Okay? Any other questions on this? Yes?
And as you mentioned earlier, that sometimes the company will pay for the classes, whether it be continuing education or graduate or whatever. Should you feel a commitment to the company after you've taken the classes that they pay for?
No. No, I wouldn't feel committed to the company because they're not committed to you. You can take a course and they can lay you off in the middle of the course or after the course, unless there's some agreement. And even then, I mean, there's some case-by-case situation there, but for the most part, I would say that there is no loyalty in companies. There is no loyalty. Just you're in a big company, they pay for your course work, and then they can, just as they can let you go super easily, you should feel entitled to be able to leave just as easily. That's how I would look at it. Okay? I mean, if it's a small family business that you're working for and they pay for that's like a relationship thing. It's a little bit different. You know, I mean, you're really burning a bridge, and you got to think about that, right? But otherwise, no. I mean, there's no. You got to remember that there's no company loyalty to you. Okay, let's keep going. The fifth key: build and maintain your network. Build and maintain your network. Again, relationships are really important. Networking is about forming lifelong relationships. It's not about, hey, like a client came to me and said, hey, I'm a great networker. I met somebody on the train, and I was interested in maybe working at her. I found out she worked at this company, and I said, hey, do you know anybody? And she gave me the name of someone at her company. I'm a really good networker. And I said, and he was like in marketing. So I said, really, who did she give you? And he said, oh, she gave me somebody at HR. I said, of course she gave you someone at HR, because she doesn't know you. HR is the Department of Employment Prevention, right? She's not trying to, she doesn't know you. She's not going to give her valuable contacts, right? Because networking is about maintaining relationships over time, so you build trust. Okay? And you want to think big about your relationships. It's not just the 5 people you talk to every week. It's your family, it's your friends, it's people you haven't talked to in 5 years but didn't dislike you. It's your dentist. It's everybody. Okay? Think big about your network. Okay? And again, LinkedIn is, by the way, a great tool for keeping in touch with a network of people that you know. So I would use LinkedIn as a tool to build. When you build your network in LinkedIn, try to make it a quality network, people that you know in some way, not just full of strangers. Because LinkedIn's a great way to keep in touch with people. I can't do a whole LinkedIn thing, but you know, if you're interested in learning more, I have a book on it and a webinar on it, and you can come back here in a few weeks. I'll probably do another seminar on it. So, yeah.
When you say think big, you mean big like as many people as
Yeah,
possible?
think big and meaning like it's not just the 5 people you talk to every week. Like you've got a much bigger network than you think you do, and you want to keep in touch with people and make sure you reach out and let people know what you're doing. And yeah, so just think about it. Have a clear pitch when you reach out to your network. You want to be able to tell people how you can help an organization in a very concise way. You want to be able to just say, hey, you don't want to say, hey, I'm looking around for a job. Oh, really? What? You want to say, here's what I'm looking for, and here's why I think I can do this. You want to be able to give them a concise statement about how you're marketable, how you can help an employer, what makes you different from the competition, and a couple of examples to back it up. You want to be able to create that statement and practice it. Okay, we call it the 5 o'clock club, the 2-minute pitch. Again, I'll be doing a whole seminar on the pitch months down the road here. So if you can wait that long, you know. But anyway, again, I have webinars on this stuff if you can't wait that long on my website. But anyway, real security means relationships that you've maintained over time. That's what real security is, and new ones that you build. Because then you can make that move, even within your company. If things aren't looking good, and maybe you have a new boss and you just don't get along. You've got this other department you've been working with, they love you there. You just make a move over there. They'll get you out of that situation. Or they'll refer you to someone in another company. Say, look, I know it's tough, you got this new boss, you should go check out this other company. I know someone, why don't you talk to them? That's the power of relationships. It's a lifesaver in tough times. Yeah.
respond if, like, you're in a job and you want to, like, move up and you're trying for a job at another company and they call you up and they, you know, you think they're responding to your, you know, your resume or whatever, and they say, they give you an answer like, well, why don't you just move around to the company you're in?
I'm not sure I understand. So you're saying that you're looking for another job?
I'm saying I was in a position once where I was in a company and I wanted to move up, you know, move to a higher position, and I tried applying to another,
Department?
another company.
Another company?
And they responded like, you know, in essence,
Oh.
move around to your own company.
Well, I don't know what, that's something I can't even, so the question, you know, it's something that sounds like a unique situation that I can't really address here, just because I don't understand why they would say that. And I don't think
the
they...
situation is that you're not being loyal to the company you're in, and why.
Honestly, I don't know what that's about. I really don't. It doesn't make any sense to me that they would say that. So that's why I need to talk to you more about it and understand more about your situation. And it just doesn't make sense. It's a weird comment. If the comment is, why don't you just move around your own company, don't bother us? What? What's that? That's really weird, you know? So, yeah, so that's why we need to talk about it offline, okay? Okay, so, all right. Demonstrate leadership, the sixth key. This is really important, okay? So great leadership equals, first, developing a compelling vision for the way things should be, then influencing others to adopt that vision, and producing results. So great leadership isn't about, hey, you do this and you do this. That's not leadership, right? Or it's not just the day-to-day management of stuff. Great leadership is having a vision of that things could be better. And here's how they can be better. And then getting people on board and saying, hey, you're right, things can be better. And then ultimately producing results. And you can do this from any level. You don't have to be managing a huge staff. You could be an entry-level person and be a leader. And set yourself apart and really distinguish yourself in an organization. Okay? And let me give you an example. So I had a client who was pretty junior, who was just recently out of college. She got a job. Part of her job was running reports and distributing them to all these different heads of these different departments. So someone who did a good job at that would have gotten the reports run on time, made sure there were no errors, and made sure they got to department heads in a timely way. That would have been doing a good job. She would have been doing a very good job if she had just done that, right? But she started looking at these reports. Said, you know something? I bet you they're not reading 3/4 of this stuff. I think, and the stuff that they are reading, I don't think it's presented in a very clear way. So it's hard to make decisions based on the stuff that they are reading. I think we should revamp these reports. So what she did was, first she had this vision. She said, you know what? I don't think this is great. I think it can be better. Then, and I have a few ideas. Then she started talking to the heads of the department. Said, hey, listen, I have a couple of ideas to make things better. What do you think? These are people much more senior than her. She was asking them this advice, right? And they said, well, yeah, you know, I think it could be better. I think that is a good idea, but why don't you also try this? And another person said, yeah, I think we could use it this way. I think your idea is good, and let's also tweak it a little bit. So she got all this input. Then she went to her boss and said, look, I just talked to all these heads of the department. They think the reports can be better. I proposed to them that we make that we redo these reports. The boss loved it. They proposed it to the boss's boss. And because she had kind of gotten the stakeholders buy-in, all these heads of the department, they went right through and they revamped the whole reporting process, created much more useful reports, and suddenly she was a star in the organization. This is a very, very junior person because she thought about I want a vision for a better way. And I want to influence people to adopt that vision, and I want to produce results. That's at a very junior level, okay? At a more senior, so you get that, how at a junior level you can be a leader, and how it can really set you apart, and make you stand out from the person who's just doing their job well, okay? At a more senior level, I had a client who was managing a staff. She was new to the staff, and she actually, the executive vice president, she was a director of business development. Executive vice president told her when she came in, said, you know, you got big shoes to fill. Because the prior person who had been there was very, very highly thought of. She's like, great, I have big shoes to fill, okay? So what she did was, she actually had a vision. So he thought of his job, her predecessor thought of his job as managing the sales team, putting out fires, and analyzing data and steering the team accordingly. So she thought of her job as all those things. Plus, she said, you know what? I think we could be doing a lot better if we were working better with different departments. We're too siloed. Business development needs finance and information technology and marketing to play a bigger role. We need to be partnering with them. So in her tenure, she started to build relationships, and she built a new way of working with these people. In 6 months, the executive vice president said, you know something? You've thrown away those old shoes. You're the best hire we've had in 10 years. Okay. So she had the vision, she got people on board, and she now was the best hire they've had in 10 years. So think about that in your job. How can you be a leader? But again, you got to focus on results. Don't just go crazy and say, hey, we should do this and do that, and it's like totally out of line with strategy. You got to make sure that you can influence people to adopt it, and it's something that's going to really benefit. Right? Always tie it back to reality, to the bottom line. Okay? Any questions on that, on leadership? Okay. All right, so those are the 6 keys. Now, any other questions in the 6 keys? We're going to go on to how to get promoted, and then we're going to talk about the first 90 days. Yes?
For a recent graduate, how do you present yourself for a job that you really don't have experience in?
That's outside the scope of this conversation. The question is, how do you present yourself for a job that you don't have experience in? That's really getting interviews, and I do a whole seminar on that. I can't talk about it now. Maybe we can talk afterwards. Okay? Sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I have a question. Say at your job, everybody who works together gets along, but nobody there agrees with the head up floor. So in that kind, it's constantly negative talking about your boss. Everyone works well together, but everyone's so negative when it comes to your boss.
Okay.
How do you manage that? You were trying to stay positive, but it's so negative, it's impacting everything.
Well, the culture, if you have what you're saying is the culture of the organization is a negative culture, right? It's a drag. You can't change the culture single-handedly unless you are high enough up in the organization to do so, right? So you're not. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
You're not in a position to change the culture. Only your boss or your boss's boss or even someone above them can change the culture. So there's nothing you can do. Maybe leave? What can you do? What I would do for yourself, to protect yourself, is not, negativity just doesn't help. It doesn't help in your career, it doesn't help in a job search, it doesn't help, period. I would try to stay, and it sounds like you're trying to do that. I would continue to try to stay above the negativity and not get sucked into it. If it's dragging you down and you're saying, boy, this job is really a drag, and they're really so negative, well, maybe you should look for another job. It sounds like you're, it's not the right thing for you, right? It's not part of your vision to be in an organization like this, okay? But I would just say that negativity is a no-no in general, okay? And sooner or later, things are going to turn out negatively if you're too negative, okay? So try to stay above the fray. Don't get sucked in. Gossip can be important and good in the sense that you need to hear what's going on, right? You need to be one step ahead. You need to know when it's time to move on. That's important, but it doesn't mean you have to be talking bad about people. That's a little bit different than just normal gossip. You can say, I heard that this person got promoted, or this person got let go, whatever. That's factual gossip, right? It's not like she's an idiot or he's an idiot or whatever, right? That you don't want to get into, okay? Because relationships are really important. Any other questions? Yes?
Yes, about leadership. Part of it is the vision. And also, my question is, how do you go about acquiring the resources necessary, which at times are financial resources? That, for instance, if you have a good vision, but then your boss or your stakeholders may inquire about how do you go about obtaining the resources.
So you have a vision, but how do you get the resources? Well, then maybe it's not a good vision. I'm just saying that, maybe if that's part of it, like can the company afford it? It may not be so good if it's too expensive, right? One of the things you can do, so I had a client whose vision for a better way, this is the one with the workflow management thing that I was telling you about before, that example, the work re-engineering. His vision was to be able to save a lot of money. We can save a lot of money if we do it this way. That's pretty cool if you can demonstrate that, right? You got to basically, you have to tie, this is where it's important. Your question's a good one because it's really important to keep in mind the bottom line. The bottom line, even if you're in a nonprofit, the bottom line is somewhere along the line it's money. Money or getting your message out or something like that, right? You got to tie it to the bottom line. If your vision hurts the bottom line, then it's not good, right? If they just can't afford it. So that's how I would answer the question. Okay? Any other questions on the 6 keys before we move on? Okay. All right. So let's talk about getting promoted. Okay. There are 4 factors that will help you to know if you have the potential to be promoted. Okay. You got to be ready to be promoted. You have to be included in things in the organization. You have to be someone that they want included, and you have to get yourself included if they're not including you. Okay. You have to be known, right? Are you acceptable to others? So it's not just about your boss, but what about the other people that you're going to affect in your new job, in your promotion? Are you acceptable to them? And then it's luck. Are you in the right place at the right time? You have to have all 4 of those things. So if you can have the first 3, but the last thing isn't in place, in your case, right? Maybe you should get a raise or promotion or whatever, but the company's in Chapter 11, it's not going to happen. They can't afford that. You're lucky to keep your job. So, yeah.
Sorry, how do you mean acceptable to others?
Acceptable to others meaning, will they accept you in this higher role? Do they think well enough of you that they think, yes, I'm good with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So let's talk about the 4 factors, okay? Assessing where you are with each of the 4 factors. You can use the 6 keys to figure out where you are with the 4 factors. I'm throwing a lot of numbers, 6, 4, whatever. But anyway, are you ready? Are you ready? Look at keys number 1 and 6, marketability and leadership. Do you have marketable skills that you can offer in this new role? And have you demonstrated leadership? Have you set yourself apart in some way? Are you someone that has a vision for things that are better? That'll help you to get promoted. Are you ready? Okay? Are you included? Included could be, how do you get included? You can volunteer for stuff. Sometimes in big organizations, they have all kinds of employee engagement activities. You can become someone who goes beyond just the day-to-day and can add value in lots of different areas. Are you included in different things? Are you asked to join meetings of maybe people more senior to you? That's a good sign. Do they care enough about what you have to offer to ask you to come to these meetings? If they're asking someone else but not you, that may be a sign that they don't think you're ready to be promoted. Right? You're not being included. Are you acceptable to others? This is the managing up, down, and across. You got to manage your relationships. Do the quarterly exercise and the 8-word message. Okay? And lastly, are you in the right place in the right time? It's just you got to be in the right place in the right time. And if you're not in the right place in the right time, maybe it's time to move on. If that's what you want to do is get promoted. Does that make sense to people? Any questions on this? Because this is a pretty short section. We're going to move on. It's pretty mathematical. These are the 4 things. If you don't have them, it's not going to work out. Okay? Okay, so, all right, let's talk about the first 90 days. Okay. So, just get to my notes here. What's going on here? Okay. So the first 90 days. Now, this is really important. Your success begins before your official first day. Okay? Now, it may be too late for some of you, but just keep it in mind for the next job you get. You're thinking of moving. If you're moving even within your company to a different department, in a new role. Okay? The first 90 days begins before your first day. Just because they say, okay, you're officially starting this date doesn't mean you have to be starting at that date. In fact, on your first official day, things are just so crazy often that you don't have time to get up to speed, right? So you can hit the ground running, which is really helpful to a long-term perception about how good you are by doing some stuff before your official start date. So what I would do, say you were negotiating an offer. So say you get a job offer. What I would do is negotiate the start date to be as far in the future as possible. Not so you can take this great vacation, although you may want to do that, right? but maybe take that great vacation and prepare. Prepare on that vacation. I had a client who went to Hawaii with the extra time, but brought his laptop on the beach and had all the materials and just read everything, learned all the acronyms, did a ton of research on his department, on the industry, on the company, on the competition. So he was ready. So he made really good use of that Hawaii trip, not just from a sense of calm, but also from a sense of preparedness and being able to hit the ground running. Okay, if it were me, and I would recommend this for you, I would be starting to build relationships before your official first day. I would be talking to, finding out who your stakeholders are, who the key people are that you depend on or who depend on you, and having meetings with them, having coffee with them, having lunch with them, talking to them before your official date. So that way when you come into that first day, you can already have a sense of what the issues are, what the problems are that you're going to have to solve, how you're going to work together. You don't have to learn all that stuff. You want to do as much of this as you can before your official date. Again, what you do now is going to last you, what you do at the beginning is going to last you for 2 years. Perceptions, that first impression, can last for a really, really long time. Okay? I'm going to talk more about that in a second. Anyway, you want to create, based on your research and based on your meetings, have some kind of a personal vision and a plan. What do you want to do? Maybe it's talking to everybody on your team within the first month. Maybe it's having meetings with vendors or clients or customers. Have a plan to how you're going to get information, how you're going to use that information to succeed, which can change. Okay? Give it your best shot. Okay. Now, this is really important. You want to set yourself up for success right from the start, and the best way to do that is before you accept the offer. Okay? So if you've already accepted a job offer, well, you can still do this, but the best time to negotiate whether that you're set up for success is before you've accepted. Right? When you're interviewing, they have all the leverage. You can't negotiate anything. Okay? Once they offer you the job, all of a sudden they just want you. They forgot about everybody else. All of a sudden, then you can start saying, well, listen, I'd like to meet some other people on the team to make sure that, to get a feel for my staff, or I want to understand what my bonus is dependent on, or how is my performance going to be evaluated. Will I have access to these people or these other people, because I think I'll need them to do my job. You want to be able to, you can negotiate all that stuff before you accept. Now, if you've already accepted, because you didn't hear this, in time, then you should still think about these same things. You should still think about, what are my expectations? What are their expectations of not your expectations, what are their expectations of my performance? What do they want from me? Are we aligned? Do I have the resources available to meet those expectations? Again, face this stuff head on before you even start. What are the key stakeholders of my success, and are they aligned with the position? I had a client who got into a job where somebody was fundamentally opposed to a key stakeholder, a key person who was going to be, in fact, his boss. If you want to be blunt about it, he was kind of forced to take this guy, to this new hire. So it didn't work out well because everybody wanted him to hire this person, and his boss wasn't strong enough to fight it, so he just hired this person. It didn't work out. So he wasn't set up for success with his boss because his boss didn't want him there. So you want to think about that stuff and see what you can do about it ahead of time. But at least understand it. You got to at least in order to do something about it, you have to face it. Okay? Once you've understanding your role, the expectations, the resources, the key stakeholders, do a personal assessment. You might have heard of this. You've done any kind of business school type of stuff. You SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They apply this to companies, right? You can apply this to yourself. You should go look at, and I'm going to give you an example of how somebody did this, okay? You should go look at yourself and say, what are my strengths that I'm bringing into this new role? What are my weaknesses? What are potential problems because I'm not good in a certain area? What are the opportunities based on my strengths and weaknesses? And what are the threats? Okay? And that's going to be a little bit informed by what you've learned in terms of your expectations, the resources, and the key stakeholders. Okay? So I give you some examples of strengths, like strategic, good at relationships, weaknesses, I'm not technical, opportunities, we like to break down silos between departments, using my relationship skills, and threats, I'll be relying on the technical programming. I'm not good at that. I'm giving you this a real example. Remember the person I was telling you about before where they said you threw away those old shoes? We did this with her. We did the SWOT analysis, and she realized, I'm really good with people. My strength is relationship skills, and I'm good with the big picture. I am not technical, and I'm not particularly good with the numbers and the data, which my predecessor really was good at. That was his strength, but I'm not good at that, right? That's what she was thinking about, right? Given that, what are the opportunities? Well, my opportunity is to build relationships within the organization that can make the business development team function better. And what's the threat? I'll be sucked into all this technical stuff, this data-driven stuff that I'm not naturally good at. So from that, she came up with a whole plan for how she was going to approach this job, which I'm going to get into in a little while. Do you see how this can help you? People have any questions on this? Because I'm getting into some kind of heavy stuff here. Does this make sense? Yes.
Clarification I would appreciate is how, with every job there's a scope of work. It's called job responsibilities. Okay, so how do you, open that up to make sure that you're changing actually the scope of the job? Because, for example,
Right, great question.
what you just said is that you can't get around the fact that you have to work with numbers and data. So if you're not, I'm good at it, but a lot of people hate it. You know what I'm saying?
So the question is, yep.
When I go to an interview, I sell that because I love it, And I'm not a real strong people person, but I love numbers.
Okay.
So how do you change the scope of the job if that's the nature of the job?
Right.
That's my
Okay. So
question.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just
Yeah.
want the time. So the question is a great one. So thank you for that. So the question is, what do you do if you've identified this and you're going to want to change the scope of the job? Well, I'm going to give you an example of how it's done as we go through the first 30, 60, 90 days. But the short answer is carefully and slowly. You don't do it. That's the short answer, and I'm going to show you specifically how to do that. You can't jump in like gangbusters saying we should do this or I'm going to do this. You can't do that. And plus you're new. You got to learn how things are done there, right? We're going to get into this in a lot more detail, okay? But that's the short answer, okay? And then I'll give you the longer answer in a couple of minutes. If you haven't given it to you, you can ask it again, okay? All right. Other questions in this? Okay. Last thing I just want to mention is you want to think about when you're setting yourself, whether you're set up for success, you want to think about the organization, not just you, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, but how about the organization? How about the department? Are they set up for success? You want to be one step ahead of the curve, so you want to think honestly, and again, this should be done before you even take the offer, but even after, you should think about this so you can always be one step ahead of the curve. You want to think about, there's something called the 5 C's. There are lots of ways to think about the organizational strategy. The 5 C's is just one way. You can Google the 5 C's, you'll see a lot about it, but they're just, you want to think about the customers, their collaborators, the capabilities, competitors, conditions. Basically, just think about the organization. Is the organization on a good footing? In your case, where they're not on a good footing, this is what you want to, you already know that. You've kind of done this analysis in your head somehow already. But you all want to be very conscious of what's going on around you. It's not just your performance, but how about the organization itself? No matter how great you are and how much your boss thinks of you, will the organization ultimately cause problems for you? Because you want to be proactive about that. Okay? Okay, now here's something really important. I touched on it before. In your first 6 months, you should be prepared to become one with the job. Now, I'm all in favor of work-life balance. I believe in it. I think you need to have a balance in your life. Family is important. All kinds of things might be important to you, right? But in those first 6 months, what you do is they're going to remember for 2 years or even longer. My advice is to set up your relationships, your lifestyle, as if at all possible. If you have kids, and maybe your spouse can help out a little more than usual, whatever it is, for those first 6 months. So you can go beyond expectations, okay? Work harder than your long-term comfort level. Kill yourself for 6 months and then take it easy, okay? That 6 months is really, really important. Just psych yourself up to do it. I'm not advocating you do it forever, but just do it at the beginning. It makes a big, big difference. And they'll remember it for a really long time. So when you're taking it easy, no one's thinking of you as the person who's taking it easy. They're thinking about, well, that's the person who did all those amazing things when they first started. That's what they're thinking about. Does that make sense to people? Okay. Let's talk about day 1 to 30. What do you do? Okay? Now, you're starting a new job. The first thing you want to do is you want to clarify your boss's performance expectations. You want to meet with her or him. You want to understand their communication style and emulate it. People are, your job is to please your boss, right? We decided that earlier. So you want to, as much as possible, especially because you're new, you want to try to adapt your style to your boss's style as much as possible, because that's going to help them. You'll help them to do their job by adapting to their style. Don't make them adapt to your style, right? You're hired to help them to look good. That's why you were hired. So that means you've got to see, are they phone versus in person versus email? Are they hands-on or off? You process-oriented versus tell me the bottom line. There are people. Some people want to know step by step. All right, why did you do that, and why do you think that? Some people just say, just tell me what I need to know. Tell me what do you think? That's it. They want to go right to the head, right? Because you're a process person, if they're a bottom line person, don't be a process person. Be the bottom line. Be aware of that, and vice versa. Okay? Some people want a little detail. Some people just say, tell me the big picture. Just what's the big picture? You get the idea? Okay. You want to get on your boss's calendar at least once a week to make sure that you are doing what they want you to do, that your priorities are their priorities. And share your plan with your 90-day plan, whatever you come up with in terms of how you want to approach your job with your boss. Say, does this make sense to you? That's what you want to do. There's lots of other things you can do too. So from week 1 to day 30, it's learning, it's assessment. I mentioned before in the answer to the question, you want to do things slowly. Okay? You want to learn the culture. Learn the rules before trying to change them. It's really important. How does conflict get managed? Some organizational cultures, it gets avoided. In some organizational cultures, it's dealt with very aggressively. And if your style is aggressive, but their avoidance, that's not cool. People aren't going to like you, and relationships are really important. And vice versa. If you tend to avoid things, but they're just like very much confrontational, well, you're not going to be thought of well. Because they will see you as not addressing problems. Okay? So you got to learn the culture. How does conflict manager manage what's said or not said in meetings? Is it competitive, collegial, team-oriented, or silos? You want to make sure you understand the technical issues that you need to understand, the products and the services. And this is stuff you can probably do even before you start. A lot of it anyway. You want to start learning meetings every day to every other day. You want to talk to your stakeholders. You want to talk to subordinates if people are working for you. They know what's really going on often. You want to talk to your customers, partners, all the different stakeholders in your success. You want to understand the business, basically. You want to build support. You want to start to build relationships and friendships and good working relationships with people. Build a winning coalition. Identify the biggest issue, find a mentor. Now let me talk about that. There's usually one person in every organization who's just super nice. They may not be the most highly thought of, but they are willing to help other people. Try to find that person and be grateful that if they help you and treat them well. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty young at my job, and is it okay to have a lot of mentors?
Sure.
Or do you want to?
No, I think it's better that way you don't bug any one person too much, right? But absolutely. But find somebody who can help you. You can ask the quote-unquote dumb questions to. There are people like that who will answer. Like you're sitting in a meeting and they keep throwing out this acronym. You have no idea what it is, but everybody expects that you know it. Go to your mentor or whoever, that nice person, and say, what are they talking about in here, right? They'll be cool with it, okay? So, make the human connection when you first start. Especially if you're coming into a management position, make sure you say hello to everybody, all the people who support you, the administrative people. Make sure that you introduce yourself, you find out their names. Okay, you get the idea. Identify quick wins. So you don't want to change the world. To the question you had earlier, right? The question you had earlier, you can't change the world right away. You've got to see what the world is before you can change it. Okay? So, so if you feel there's a mismatch in terms of skills, well, maybe you can address that over time. That's what I think you were talking about, right? You want to
Yeah,
change
just
the job
When you're
description.
navigating a job, I think you need, if there's a fine line, you have to be careful about it.
Absolutely.
You don't want to step on toes, and you don't want to give the mistaken impression that you're trying to change things because things are not done correctly already. You have to be careful about it. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yes. Yep.
I've seen that, and you don't want to insult anybody, frankly, especially your boss, you know?
Right. Great point, and that's true. That's why you have to do things slowly. Okay, you have to do things slowly. Identify the quick wins, the easy stuff. Okay. So let me give you an example. So when when my client Julie, who was this business development person, right? She got into this new position. The first thing she did the SWOT analysis and all that, but she didn't try to change anything. She had this whole staff. Remember, her predecessor, it was all about analysis and data, and that wasn't her strength, right? First, she said, what can I do? What can I do that will immediately add value? It wasn't creating a new report. What she did was she did something, if I remember correctly, it was involving enabling information, like having some kind of an information rack about the organization she was in that could help her business development staff develop business more effectively. Information that could help them sell the services more easily. She personally took it upon herself to make that information more accessible. It was easy, she was able to do it, and they were really grateful for it. Just like simple things like that, okay? Share credit, okay? You want to be the person that gives credit. You don't want to be the person that takes the credit, okay? Especially early on, okay? So just be the person that shares credit. These relationships are so important. It's very important. Okay, what do you want to avoid? Yes?
For sharing credit, I've done that in the past and found that a lot of people won't give you the proper credit. What do you do in a situation where you're not getting credit? Just let it go?
I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes as long as your boss knows or the right people know it's okay, and you can just be, the right people. In a good organization, the right people usually fan out. If it's a dysfunctional organization, that's a different issue. That's why I'm saying a little bit. It depends. Okay. What do you want to avoid? You want to avoid isolation, which is easy when you're new, especially if you're not extroverted or outgoing. It's easy to just get isolated, and you need to make an effort. That's why I'm saying you should try to have coffee or lunch with people. You should try to have meetings with people, talk to people, build those relationships. It's really important. Do it one-on-one. Don't have the answer. Okay. To hammer, everything looks like a nail. So in your case, the hammer is your prior success in your prior position. What worked in your prior company? That's the hammer. You're thinking, well, that worked there, so it's going to work here. No, not necessarily. Really, not necessarily. It may not be the case. So keep that in mind. That what you think is the answer may not actually be the answer to this company. You want to make sure you're not captured by the wrong people. That's something that can happen. Meaning, you don't know the people yet. You don't know who really knows what they're talking about versus who doesn't, versus who's just alienated the whole department versus who's well-liked and all this stuff. So just be careful. That's all I'm saying is be careful, not to be captured by the wrong people. Avoid setting unrealistic expectations. Just go for the quick wins initially. Remember, this is the assessment phase. You have some time. You have some time to prove yourself. You got a few months. It's a curve. Each month, you do more and more and more, right? So manage expectations. If there's something like under promise and over deliver, right? Under promise and over deliver. That's what you want to do. Don't try to do too much too soon without knowing the culture. You can step on toes and make enemies. Okay? You don't know the reasons for things yet, and you haven't mastered the culture. Let's talk about day 60. Okay. Day 60 is when things really need to start rolling. Okay? Now you've spent day 30 learning. Day 60 is you're going to start making some more substantive changes, and maybe that's where you're starting to come up with your leadership vision. Okay? Refine your plan, communicate clearly your vision and plan for the next 3 to 6 months to your bosses, peers, and subordinates. Implement and build quick wins. Implement, build quick wins, celebrate successes, assess staff and stakeholder support, needs and issues if you start to address those things. Continue learning and communicating practices from the first month. Okay, so I was to give you an example. So with Julie, just go back to Julie. The first 30 days, she was just learning. She had a couple of quick wins, like I described to you. Now she's starting to do some more substantive things. She's starting to see what's really a problem. So one of the things she saw was a problem was the reporting structure of her prior boss, of the prior manager of the team, wasn't working for her. She had like 20 people reporting to her, and she wasn't getting anything done. Remember, she started to develop a vision. She was starting to develop a vision for the breaking down the silos, and working better with different departments. Just 1 second. And so she's like, there's 20 people reporting to me. I can't do this. So she restructured the department, and she gave people a staff entrepreneur model. That's what she called it. She said, I want you to show you how to do stuff on your own, so you don't have to come to me or to your boss all the time, right? So by the end of the day 60, she came up with the idea of restructuring the department. She actually, day 30 to 60, she came up with the staff entrepreneur model. She implemented that. Here's how you can not ask me a lot of questions. Okay, basically, I need you to do stuff on your own. This is where you can go for this information. Okay? Day 90 is the realization phase, and that's where she actually restructured the department to enable her to actually really focus on the internal relationships and the more strategic issues. And the one substantive win that she had was all of a sudden now she developed this. She worked diligently on this, starting from slowly but surely over 3 months to build those new relationships with stakeholders. By day 90. She had a really, really good relationship with the marketing department. It used to be terrible to business development and marketing. Now she made that effort, and she used her strength. Which is relationship building. She was working really well with this team. They were coming up with great initiatives that were enhancing the ability to bring in new business, which is what her team was mandated to do. And because she restructured the department, she was able, and gave them that entrepreneur model, staff entrepreneur model, she was able to focus on the things she did well and not get stuck with the data and the technical stuff that she wasn't so good at, but her predecessor was good at. So this is how you do things slowly, okay? She first listened to what was going on, she saw the culture, got some quick wins, then she started to make moves to change the reality to make it work with her strengths and still get the department's vision done. Okay? This is her, the way she did it. The way you do it might be totally different. Maybe this is a management situation. Maybe you're a solo, contributor. So you have to do things your own way. But the point is to start slowly, learn, and start to go for the quick wins, then start to make changes and have at least one substantive win by the end of 3 months. Okay? Do the quarterly relationship exercise at the end of 3 months. What's your relationship with all your key stakeholders? Are there any gaps in terms of where you want them to be? If they are, what can you do to address them? We talked about that earlier. Let's see. Communicate early and often, clearly, refine your plan. Okay, I want to end on something, and then I want to take your questions. Okay? So we're pretty much done with all the content, but here's a word about happiness and career success. I'm just going to read this to you. A study done by the Center of Creative Leadership, which is a major think tank for leadership, okay, showed that happier people tend to get ahead. The people who are at the top of a hierarchical organization are the most happy. The people further down the organization's ladder are less happy. The center believes that happy people rise to the top, and out of every group, from the lowest level in an organization to the highest, there are happy people, and these are the people who get promotions. They tend to get along better with others, volunteer above and beyond the call of duty, and simply have put more energy and thought into their jobs. If a manager has a choice between promoting the person who's enthusiastic and pitches in, or the person who walks around unhappy and complaining, she will certainly select the former. So, if you're happy, you've got an advantage. If you're not happy, my advice to you is fake it. Fake it. It's going to help your career. Okay. Anyway, I'll leave it on this page, but I'll take some more questions. This is my book. Again, you can fill out this sign-up sheet right here, and I'll email you the slides. I would ask if you could like my Facebook page so I can help as many people as possible. Please do so. You'll get free career tools, including a free guide to LinkedIn for the job search and one of my webinars as well. If you like my Facebook page, you can subscribe to my blog. I have a new entry on resume writing that you might be interested in, and all this other stuff, right? I have a bunch of career webinars. If you go to my website, helmingconsulting.com, seminars, You can see all these webinars that you might be interested in. I'm going to be doing a lot of programs at Montclair over the next year. And in fact, on August, I think Jenna mentioned this, right? August 8th?
Yeah.
August 8th, I'm doing a 4-hour job search boot camp. So it's going to be very intensive. It's going to kind of give you a lot of tools that you'll be able to use if you're contemplating a job search in terms of moving forward. So you might be interested in that. Anyway, questions. I'll take a few questions and then we'll stop. Yes?
About LinkedIn, would it be a good idea if you had a new job to add the new position in the company right away as a way to get to know people, or would you suggest waiting?
Oh, you just got a new position? I would totally add it right away. In fact, I just did another seminar today for another organization on how to use LinkedIn for your current job, to do well in your current job. LinkedIn is a great tool for your current job as well. And you can use it to find people in your company and network within your company on LinkedIn. So yes, I think you should put your new company on right away and get into there and join some, maybe there's some discussion groups, some groups for the company you're in. You had a question?
You're already scheduled to do a LinkedIn for MSU?
Yeah, but I don't know, it's kind of down the road. I'm not sure exactly when it is. And LinkedIn,
So LinkedIn is going to be like next spring.
oh, is that far? Yeah, it's pretty far away. If you need some more help with that, go to my website. I have resources on there. I have a webinar on it that you can listen to. And I also have my book. Okay? You had a question? Yes.
I don't know, could you, the term silos?
So silos
I'm not
means,
familiar
sure.
with this term.
The question silos is, people often say silos meaning they're in these separate little compartments and they're not working together. They're isolated. They're working, sometimes they're duplicating effort. They're not partnering effectively to get more out of that partnership than they would just working separately. That's what I mean by silos. Okay? Yes?
In a business that's cyclical, how would you modify the strategy for the first 90 days? And would you repeat it during the other cycles of the business?
Can you want to give me a more specific example?
Well, peak periods in the business.
Well, I think, in a business that's cyclical, it's still in terms of learning and going through a strategy for the 6 keys, right? Which is to implement the 6 keys, to show leadership, to keep your skills marketable, all that stuff. There's got to be, in the first 3 months of any new job, there's going to be a learning period. I don't care if it's cyclical or not cyclical. And you may want to change things or do things differently, but you can't do it right away. So that's what we're talking about for the first 90 days. So I'm not sure why it wouldn't apply.
Maybe seasonal is better?
I still don't understand. I'm not sure why wouldn't what I just shared with you apply in a cyclical business. I mean, you still have to, it's really about learning, finding the right people to connect with in your organization, figuring out what the issues are, the problems are, and just because a business is cyclical, the problems within an organization are not cyclical. There are problems that repeat themselves every cycle, right? So what are those problems? You may not understand them until you've been in the organization for a while. So that's what I mean about understanding, and then solving those problems. There are cyclical things, and then there are long-term things that make the organization even better. Okay? Yes?
Based on the title of your book, can you share the 1 or 2 key things you think are most different in today's social media job search versus before social media?
What do I think is most different?
Yeah.
I think it's much easier to tap into the hidden job market now than it used to be. Let me define the hidden job market for you. It's not answering ads. It's not going to headhunters. It's reaching out to people and contacting people directly who you don't know and building and leveraging a network to get introductions to people you want to meet. That's how people, that's really the biggest bang for the buck in terms of your time spending in your job search is through the hidden job market. Everybody goes through ads and headhunters. I talk about this for an hour and a half in another seminar that I'm going to do it. Everybody goes through ads and headhunters. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but spend 20% of your time on that, 80% of your time on the hidden job market, and LinkedIn in particular can help you to contact people directly who you don't know and to get introductions to people you want to meet. Okay? That's a short answer. Another question. Do you have a question? Somebody else? Yeah.
Well, I recently started a new job for 4 months. And I work in a regional office in the headquarters, the main department is in the headquarters. And I've been burned in the past where I worked in the regional office, didn't have as many relationships in the main office where decisions were made, and how can I make a better connection with people outside of my immediate regional office?
So you want to make better connections with people
In the main office where probably more decisions
Got
are
it.
made
Yeah.
about.
Well, is there a geographical thing? So you're talking about how to, just to make it relevant to everybody, how can you build relationships outside your immediate day-to-day job, essentially, right? What you're doing, your immediate department. If you're not meeting these people. That's what you're not running into these people. That's what you're saying. How do you build? This is a great question for everyone, right? I would get on LinkedIn, for example. Okay, I get on LinkedIn. I find people in the different departments or the main office in your case that maybe we have connections in common. Maybe we both know the same people in the organization or outside the organization. Introduce yourself. Is the main office geographically in the same place as you?
It's about 15 miles away.
That's great. That's not far at all.
It's not far.
Great. So I would say, listen, can I buy you lunch? I'll drive over, or can we have a coffee after work sometime? I'd love to talk to you a little bit about. You've got it. This is contacting people directly. They'll be happy to do it if they're the people that you want to meet will be happy to do that. If you make it easy for them, don't say, say 20 minutes. I would love to talk with you for 20 minutes and we grab a cup of coffee. Or I'd love to take you out to lunch, right? Yeah, all right, sure. Find you? Let's do it. So yes, I would be very proactive about finding people periodically to reach out to. You got to make that effort to do that. Why don't we take one more and then we'll stop. Yeah.
They say that you shouldn't trust anyone. You should just trust yourself.
Who's they?
Like, a whole general of people. Like, you shouldn't trust your boss really because, like you said, your boss and the people higher up, they're not going to be loyal to you. You have to be loyal to yourself.
Let me just stop you right there. That's not. If that came across that way, I don't mean that. I'm not. You can trust. What I mean is, there's a difference between the company and the people you work with, your boss. That's two different things. You and your boss may love you and never want to hurt you, right? But they have no control over what's going on in the marketplace, what competitors are doing, what their boss is going to do, right? They have limited or no control over that. So what I'm saying is, you can trust your boss. You can love your boss. They can trust and love you, and stuff can happen that is out of your boss's control. So I don't agree with whoever the they is. I don't agree with they saying don't trust your boss. Maybe you shouldn't trust your boss. Maybe you shouldn't be inviting your boss over to dinner. Maybe you should be best friends. I don't know. It depends. Okay? So I don't agree with that, actually, about not trusting your boss.
But what did you mean by they're not going to be loyal to you?
I mean the company. No, I mean the company. The company is there to make money, right? If you're working for a private for-profit company, they need to make money. They have to stay in business. That's the bottom line. If things change, you may be at risk because they can't keep you on and then have the company go down the tubes, right? I mean, that's the issue. It's the company. You got to think about individuals versus the company. Do not feel loyalty to staying with a company. It's one thing. Your loyalty is ultimately not to your boss. If the company is paying you, it's not about being loyal to your boss. It's about being loyal to the company because the company is going to be the one to let you go ultimately. If your boss loves you, it'll be the company that's going to let you go. Or maybe your boss is going to leave. Maybe there's a new person who doesn't know you. Right? Then there's no relationship there. Then you have to, again, you just think about it in terms of the company and loyalty to the company. I think there's very little need to be loyal to a company these days, just from what we all know is going on. Well, individuals is a different situation. But don't get loyalty to your boss confused with a responsibility to just stay in a job well beyond what you want, if that's what you're asking. You're thinking, gee, I got to be loyal to my boss so I can't leave? No, you can't. You don't want to do that, okay? Because they would leave, and you got to think about yourself, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you'll help them if you get a new job in another company. Maybe you'll tell them about opportunities and they'll move with you. You know, it's not just like you're abandoning them, right? It's a long-term thing. So, okay.
So, do you think being friends with your boss is good, or is it a business agreement?
All right, that's a great
with
question.
no
Let me
feeling?
just to end on this, that being friends with your boss is good. I think that you can be there. I think it depends, but I think friendships at work with a boss can only go so far because there's this business need. I mean, and what happens is, and I've heard just so many stories of friendships that get shattered because all of a sudden you're not doing what they need you to do, or their perception is that you're not doing what they need you to do. Because that's business. It's like business, mixing business with relationships is challenging and difficult. So I don't want to make any rule that says you can't be best friends with your boss. I don't think that you should make a rule like that, but I'd say be careful. Be careful. And this goes with other people you meet, not just your boss. You know, well, I've seen this over and over again with clients. I've seen it in my own experience when I was 20 years in the corporate world. You think these people, you guys are best friends, right? Your colleagues, your best friends. All of a sudden now they're your boss. Or they're in a different department. Or you have to work with them in a different way. And suddenly there's a tension that wasn't there before, but they know all your secrets. They know that you badmouth these other people or something like that. That stuff happens all the time. Things can change very, very quickly. So I'm not saying to not become best friends with anybody. I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is just to be careful and be aware of that. Okay? That's the best thing to advise. Anyway, I'll stick around a little longer. You can fill this out if you'd like. Thank you, and hope to see you at some other work.